This is the outlook on Click Naija Online Radio, Radio Nigeria's pioneer online radio channel. My name is Ehi Ohiani. We're reaching you live via our online channels, and you can join us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Click Naija 1. And on our website, you can log on and listen to us via our live streaming at www.clicknaija.gov.ng. Join us live on YouTube at Click Naija. Hit the subscribe button now and join the conversation. Today I have someone eminent with me, and he is a royal father, a first-class royal father in Nigeria. I am talking about none other than His Royal Highness, the Emir of Zazzau, Alhaji Ahmed Nuhu Bamalli, CFR. Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you. You're welcome.
He's a lawyer, he's a banker, a diplomat. He was also an ambassador to Thailand, and he is someone who the young generation should look up to and definitely have a whole lot to benefit and to gain from. So today we are here to speak with him and get up close and personal. It's 1 year of the president assuming office in Nigeria. What would you say has been your impression so far within the past 1 year of governance of the present administration?
Going by your question straight to the point, so far so good. Reason why I said so far so good, he has just started, and I believe he's one of the tested hands. We've seen what he's done when he was the governor of Lagos State. So some of us that were privileged to live in Lagos when he was the governor, we've seen what he's done, and we're optimistic that he has all the capacity, the knowledge, and experience, at least, to lead the country to the right direction. Of course, we're not saying that there are no issues, here and there, but we are confident, and we believe in Nigeria as one indivisible entity, and we are hopeful, all of us, that he's going to do very well, and he has started. So far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say is the role or the place of the traditional institutions in supporting the governance of the nation?
Yes, like now, even this visit to Abuja, we came, for a meeting of the Nigerian Interreligious Council meeting. It's a forum that we have both Muslims and Christians and all traditional rulers from across the country, especially the chairman of the state traditional councils. So we're all here in Abuja. In the next hour, we're going to discuss areas of mutual interest, areas of collaboration, so that at least we can always be talking to each other. If there is an avenue to discuss issues of mutual interest and also national issues, yes, that is the forum that we normally discuss and then be on the same page, so everybody will be up to speed with the development of issues across the country. And normally after the meeting there's a communique of which some of us will have to see Mr. President or Secretary to the government to brief them, and then so we can all be up to speed with each other. So it's a very large issue.
Okay. This program is also streaming across various platforms of Radio Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, on the network service of Radio Nigeria. So you can hook up and log on to us at radioNigeria.gov.ng. Talking about banditry and all the challenges. I'm curious, as the traditional head, when you hear of those kinds of things happening, in your domain, you hear the news, oh, this has happened here, the other has happened there, which is not the norm or is not what should be or used to be. How does that come to you? How does that make you feel in those moments?
That is an everyday occurrence, because every morning when I wake up in the morning, if I should check my phone, certainly I'll be, saying my early morning prayers at 5 with some, mixed feelings. So I always wait until I pray and then I check my phone. But all through the night, I sleep with one eye closed and one eye open, consulting and also with my district heads and village heads. And at the same time, transmitting whatever information we get to the Commissioner in Internal Security, very amiable gentleman, Samuel Arua. Any hour of the day or night you call him, he's always there for us. So we thank him immensely. And as a result of his, resilience and also performance in this context, yes, we always get, rapid response to all these problems going on. So we hardly sleep completely, to have a sound sleep through the night now. In the last 2 to 3 years, yes. In fact, I've been on this set, this is my 4th year. But I can say, in all these years, I hardly sleep, the way I used to, because in the middle of the night you receive distress calls, or some of the district heads will, in our WhatsApp group, they'll say something is happening there or here, But particularly in 2 local governments in our emirate, that is the Baby local government, and then of course, the notorious local government is Giwa local government, because Giwa has boundary with another emirate, that is Yenungwari, which is the hotspot, as well as Zamfara and Kaduna State. So it's like one belt, going starting from Naija State to Kaduna State, that is the Yenungwari area, and to Galadi, Makid, and then Fatika and Giwa in Zazzau emirate, which has boundaries with Zamfara and Kaduna State. So that's the area that we are faced with, like 90% of the problems. But otherwise, the other parts of the emirate, yes, occasionally you have some little attacks here and there, but 90% of the problem is in this location now.
Is there any, like you said, this is the 4th year in these years that you've been on the throne. Is there any of these incidents that took that stands out, that took away your sleep completely, and that was that one that really affected you or shook you, or
Yes, the train incident, from Kaduna to Abuja, that was a horrendous experience, and we pray to God not to see that again. And then again, there was a day we had Emirate Council meeting up until about 11:30. The district head of Fatika left me in the palace with other district heads and other members after the meeting. But within the hour, he called me profusely crying. That's after an hour, sorry. He was profusely crying. I was asking him, he said, on return to his district, one lunatic came out and sprayed, and killed about 16 people in broad daylight at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
That was despicable. And then again, some Fulani people who were decent people living in the community for many years, were also killed. So it's not entirely Fulani issue, the way people interpret it. You have very decent and honest, Fulani. I'm a Fulani man. I'm very proud to be a Fulani man. But we don't breed rascals. But there are certain people who are not even Nigerians, some of these people, because Fulani tribe is one of the, leading tribes in Africa, from Futa Toro in Senegal now to Mali to Niger to Burkina, up to Sudan, Sierra Leone, all that region. So
in some parts they are called Fula.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in every tribe, many years back, when we hear the problems, happening around Wari area, we never, thought that this is what they were going through. I'm talking of, over 35 years ago, and I started my career. So it was a very, difficult period because I had colleagues then in Lagos working with us, and we were shocked that, there was that level of insecurity around living and, worry. And so this is exactly what we are going through now in certain quarters, which is very strange in our environment.
What's your, like you just made mention, even the insecurity in the South. So apparently there is, a rise in this trend. What's your take or your perception as to what is fueling this? Do you think modernization is part of it, or the kinds of media that people are exposed to today, tradition, culture, and all that? What's your take on what could be the roots or the underlying roots?
Yes. Number one, social media. Social media is supposed to be a window, at least, for disseminating information and, but if it is credible information. The main problem in Nigeria is it's not regulated. We're not saying that, we should be like a police state, no. But, using social media, you can get into the social media and say anything and create problems, for the country that is even capable of bringing down the country on its knees. And you go scot-free because there's no legislation that, addresses that. Or we can go and abuse anybody in Nigeria from the head of state, to the common man on the street without any reason, and then you go scot-free. Or you can say some inflammatory statements, and then by the time they even take you to court, they'll say you have freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, and they release you. So by having this in place, certainly, we're very vulnerable. When intelligence, I believe, you have to be careful on where to share intelligence and things like that, because they will come after you. So I think there is need to look at that angle, to regulate it like all other countries, advanced countries, first world, the so-called first world. This is regulated, but here is not regulated.
You've talked about social media and then some other trends that's affecting the way we live now. But as a traditional ruler, how would you say you balance modernization with the traditional way of living?
Well, any society that refuses to accept change or to move with modern time, contemporary time, is that system is bound to vanish. We've seen empires. We have seen the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and several other empires in the world. They all disappeared because they were like stagnant. They didn't go with the time, and even here, where we, because of policies, changes, somersault of policies, so many empires and kingdoms, went down significantly. Case in point, we had the Benin Empire, we had, Old Oyo Empire, we had, the Sokoto Caliphate, we had Kanimbono Empire. So the functionality of those empires is totally, in those years, is like significantly eroded now. Up until the coming of the British in early 1900, in the north here, we had, the Sokoto Caliphate, we had the Islamic Sharia system in place for a century, even before the coming of the British system. And hence the reason why when the British came, the system was operating side by side, as against direct rule. It was an indirect rule here in the north. So we, or I can say our, ancestors leveraged, they operated in that system. But you see, the bedrock of everything there was education, scholarship, because the emirs used to be the supreme leaders, and they were surrounded by scholars. And even today, my schedule from Monday to Thursday, except if I have function outside the palace, it's alternative dispute resolution, and primarily in about 4 areas: matrimonial issues, inheritance, land disputes, and of recent, this rascality going on, the banditry. So we spend, like on average per day, we handle between 5 to 7 cases. And to some extent, where the high courts and even the magistrate courts always transfer, cases related to these, areas I mentioned, to the palace. For dispute resolution as against going to conventional courts to stand against your brother or your sibling or your relation, in litigation. So people always accept if it is, of course, if it has gone bad completely, but they'd rather come to the palace and, we settle the dispute and they embrace each other and then they go back as one individual family. And the land disputes, mostly, that is where one of the, causes of all these rifts with the Fulanis, the Land Use Act that we have in place. Lands are being allocated, by the state. Where you see the cattle routes that, these, Fulanis move their cattle have been blocked because of the way, the land allocation is structured across the country. This is one of the genesis. So, but I think if, the government will look at, all those issues, it will address the harder farmer, problems, because they would have, their roots, to move for dispute resolution as against going to conventional courts to stand against your brother or your sibling or your relation, in litigation. So people always accept if it is, of course, if it has gone bad completely, but they'd rather come to the palace and, we settle the dispute and they embrace each other and then they go back as one individual family. And the land disputes, mostly, that is where one of the causes of all these rifts with the Fulanis, the Land Use Act that we have in place. Lands are being allocated, by the state. Where you see the cattle routes that these Fulanis move their cattle have been blocked because of the way the land allocation is structured across the country. This is one of the genesis. So, but I think if the government will look at all those issues, it will address the harder farmer problems, because they would have their routes to move their cattle without any hindrance. The ranching cattle, yes, that is what other states have employed now or embraced now to keep them in one place, which is a good idea. Because if you look at other civilized countries, yes, they have cattle, and if you look at a Fulani woman or a young lady, a Fulani, dish she's carrying with milk, it's not more than 2,000 or 3,000 worth of milk, but she can get that without moving an inch from her location. That is the beauty of France. But we're in typical African society, and if they're to go in the natural way, with their cattle, grazing in those areas, yes, it can be done without any hindrance, provided those routes are maintained. And I've never seen any tribe, I'm not trying to be selfish, that are good with geography like the Fulani man. A Fulani man from Futa Toro in Senegal or from Timbuktu, if you ask him to come to Zaria without any compass or anything, he'll get there. All he'll do is to follow the routes, the cattle routes, and you get to Zaria and meet you there. And then the old practice of which we still do, like if they move from one place to another, they always migrate with their animals. So anybody that is, let's say, living in Zaria now, to get to Kaduna, the district head of Zaria will have to write a clearance letter and give it to him. So when you get to the next destination, show them. And then on getting to the next destination, the district head there or the security on the highway, when they see the letter from the district head of Zaria City and the stamp, they know that, okay, this one is not a crook, is a certified, Fulani man, and then he can reside. So if we go back to those, practices, which are very good, yes, and, in modern time, we embrace modernity, then they should also know that, okay, you cannot follow the Kaduna highway and be crossing, the highway or, things like that. At least to educate them, they'll do better, and the violence might, be degraded. And of course, as I said, not everybody is a criminal. So stigmatizing a certain tribe may lead to another, issue unpleasant. So we are not saying that whoever is found wanting should not be punished. No, I would certainly support punishment adequate or commensurate to, the crime committed by anybody, regardless of his tribe or religion. So we have to go by the rules of the game or rule of law in our society. That is my personal contribution in this regard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been awesome listening to you. But before I leave you, what legacy would you want to leave for your Emirates? Looking at the future now.
Well, the legacy I would want to leave behind, first, to be remembered as a just leader. That has always been my prayer. After my passing, at least I'll be remembered as a just leader. And secondly, we have started in this 3.5 years now, changing the narratives of so many things that have been happening over time, and then of course encouraging the youth who are the leaders of tomorrow. Number one, to go to school, because without education you can do very little. Entrepreneurship, as against waiting for government job. Government job has finished as far as I'm concerned. The jobs are not there, because in Nigeria, as of today, from the numbers we had, were about 210 million people in Nigeria. And I believe by 2050 we'll be close to 400 million. And then again, even in the infrastructure, and that is why we have a epileptic supply of power. Things that were done in the 1950s, the same infrastructure in Kainji and Shiroro, when Nigeria was about 60 million. We cannot say that infrastructure that was constructed in the 1950s is still the infrastructure that will cater for over 200 million people. So we have to look inwards and see what options do we have. Do we have to rely on the power generation in Kainji and Shiroro? Why don't we look at hydropower? We heard that hydro was coming from Mambila Plateau and some other places. And the windmill, as if you look at in other countries like Spain and other places, they rely heavily on the windmill and they generate power. So all these areas, I believe, if the people in position of authority look at them, certainly will assist us so that at least we can industrialize and also get much more a dividend of democracy. And so ours is to encourage the young people to get engaged, not necessarily in government work, but they have to use their fingers. That is why in our society now, in addition to acquiring a degree, we try to encourage especially our daughters to learn something they can actually use in their fingers. I'm a father of girls. All my daughters, after the first degree and even second degrees, they learn something, either knitting or baking or those little things that if the husband says that they're not going to work in a public office, yes, from the comfort of their homes, they can actually earn a living without stressing the husband to give them money for Ashobi or some other things. At least you can live comfortably and decently without begging. Begging is not Islam, and it's not decent for any religion or way of life. So we're encouraging young people to stay away from begging, but they have to study both the Islamic and the conventional Western education, that they can be better people in the society. So this is what we are doing, and this is what we're trying to achieve, to ensure that our society is free of beggars on the street. Because if everybody is playing his part, certainly we won't see the beggars on the street, because the wealthy ones are expected to give zakat, which is a portion of their wealth, to cater for the less privileged and the poor. So we are optimistic that the people in position of authority should be able to look at all these challenges, and then of course empower the youth so that they can be better people. Because it will be too dangerous to have degrees, you have certificates, and yet the job is not there. But the unfortunate part of it, most of these young people, they would not want to go and work in other, especially in the private sector. They'll say no, they're waiting for an NPC job or central bank or different white collar jobs in other institutions. These are the problems that we have in our society.
Okay, thank you so much. Before you leave, like we said, it's 1 year of the president in office. We still look forward to, better days ahead. What will be your final word of, prayer as for the nation within the next few years of this governance?
Yes, well, we pray for the best, for Nigeria and for our president. We wish him, more prosperous years and in good health. And we are optimistic that he will take us to the promised land. And what he has done in Lagos, we've seen it there very glaring, and he has left some legacies. We hope and pray that God will give him the wisdom and also good health, to do much more in tenfold, for Nigeria. So we pray to Almighty Allah to spare his life in good health, up to the end of his tenure, so that at least Nigerians can benefit, and also to revisit, certain areas that we have been having issues over time, to see what they can do. This is number two, and others, in the cabinet, at least to address those issues. We're lucky we have very intelligent, people, both the president and his vice president. They're very intelligent people, and they have a pedigree. From where they're coming from. He did well in Borno State, and he really did very well in Lagos State. So we're not, we don't have leaders that have not been tested previously. So all they need to do is to, continue or do even much more than what they've done in their respective states. So we're looking forward to better Nigeria, and we believe in Nigeria as one indivisible country. So we wish him and the entire government the best, and Happy New Year. That's it.
Thank you so much. I have been speaking with none other than the Emir of Zazzau, His Royal Highness Alhaji Ahmed Nuhu Bamalli, CFR. It's been an honor speaking with you, sir. Thank you so very much. My name is Ehi Ohiani. Join us again next time.